TIFU by spilling 72 gallons of milk at work and cleaned up none of it. This happened 15 years ago when I worked at a retail store that begins with Wall as a dairy associate. I was in college at the time and peaked just no fucks given point of my life given I hated my job so much. My shift in dairy, I worked the 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. shift and was all by myself from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. with no manager supervision from that point forward. Given the lack of supervision, I often just sat in the cooler watching videos on my iPod and drinking chocolate milk and messing with shoppers by crashing carts into one another and making screaming noises when people opened the cooler doors for milk. Occasionally I would work when I absolutely had to, as I had to prove I did some level of work to keep my job. If anyone has worked at Walmart, you'll know you absolutely have to take your lunch within 5 hours of your shift. In the event you clock out even a minute after 5 hours on shift, you will be written up. Naturally, I didn't want to get written up and just wanted to fly under the radar, so I always complied. Fast forward to the day in question. I had to move pallets of milk around in the cooler and I managed to have everything aligned but one single 2% milk pallet. Speaking of an average pallet of milk, they usually had around 360 gallons of milk on them. So it was a bit of weight on them. They always had one single tiny piece of plastic banding holding them together, which in hindsight was pretty crazy. This is where the TIFU came into question. With this pallet of milk, I had it set up where it would be the middle pallet between two other 2% pallets on the right and left. When I tried to move the middle pallet into spot, it hit the other two pallets. Fuck. Now I would have to move everything around again and I had 10 minutes before I had to clock out for lunch. As a lazy person at the time, I had the bright idea that if I ran full speed with the pallet jack, I would be able to bump the other pallets out of the way and get this middle one perfectly in place. So I cleared a path and got my pallet jack centered just right. I then ran full speed with the pallet jack and slammed my pallet into the two in question. Well, my plan backfired and the middle pallet didn't budge either of the conflicting pallets even a smidge. The force in which the pallets collided caused the pallet I was pushing to collapse forward and there was an explosion of milk. There was milk everywhere you looked. Even the ceiling. I'm talking about a full-on lake of milk that spread throughout the entirety of the cooler. This would take me forever to clean up by myself. I checked my phone and saw I needed to clock out for lunch. So I had the bright idea to tell two of the store managers. Once the managers came into the cooler, they were speechless as they thought it would be a tiny spill. Surprise. It was double surprise once I told them I was clocking out for lunch. I figured I would let the big bucks figure it out over my minimum wage ass, so I left them on their own. At Walmart, you were never allowed overtime. So in the event you were over your hours, you had to take a longer lunch, as God forbid you left early. Luckily for me, I was over that week. So I took a good 2.5-hour lunch in my car, just really enjoying my ham sandwiches. When decided to finally go back in, they had 7 people cleaning and 2 of those floor zambonis going. They basically got the whole mess cleaned up. Me being the great employee that I was, I grabbed a mop and cleaned up one small area to show I was a team player. Naturally, when the work was done, I congratulated the team for all of our hard work, making sure to take a bunch of credit for work I didn't do. All in all, 72 gallons of milk broke and spilled, and I did little to no work to clean up. The cooler ended up smelling of funky milk for months as we didn't get it all, and the ceiling always had spots on it from the initial milk explosion. But little did I care, because fuck Walmart. TLDR. Tried to cut corners at work. Broke 72 gallons of milk and cleaned none of it up. I know there's an expression about crying over spilt milk out there somewhere. I would definitely cry over all that spilt milk. So much milk. Just gone. Wasted. Making screaming noises when people opened the cooler doors, lol Jesus. You do genuinely seem like an ass though lol. You could have said it fell over and still would have been able to help clean with numerous people. And not just you clean it. I mean fuck Walmart but like. Why fuck your coworkers? Not even management, just the other people. Those seem like the only ones who get shit on here. No? I mean Walmart's not gonna go bankrupt over what to them is a pretty small amount of milk. Is it? Genuine question. Would you consider it rude for a customer to drop something and not try to clean it up? My time in retail was with clothing. And if people knocked over a pile of something, I'd rather they just tell me. And I can fix it. Than I have a random mess somewhere I can't fix. Also, I've had a few people spill drinks onto shelves. And they try hiding it under stuff. We got bugs once from that. I guess if you don't care about a place. Fuck Walmart. Amen. Then I'd understand why you'd want people to deal with it themselves. But I'd always get in trouble if something happened during my shift and it wasn't dealt with properly. This isn't a TIFU. More like IATA material. Edit. It's very clear op is the asshole. Maybe better in R, I am very badass. Wow, what an asshole. Honestly, it just sounds you have a shitty attitude to everything. I think we're all for sticking it to the man. But your managers aren't the man, you're just an asshole. Where do you work now, op? I created a gigantic mess and made other people clean it up while I sat in my car and ate lunch. For over 2 hours. This isn't a fuck up. You're just an asshole. Just sat in the cooler watching videos on my iPod and drinking chocolate milk and messing with shoppers by crashing carts into one another and making screaming noises. I had the bright idea that if I ran full speed with the pallet jack I would be able to bump the other pallets out of the way and get this middle one perfectly in place. I told them I was clocking out for lunch. I figured I would let the big bucks figure it out over my minimum wage ass, so I left them on their own. Naturally, when the work was done I congratulated the team for all of our hard work, making sure to take a bunch of credit for work I didn't do. This one's a straight shooter with upper management written all over him. I once spilt a pallet of milk when taking a corner too fast. Wasn't my fault though. A girl in the deli yelled my name and slapped her ass, so I was distracted. Reminds me of 4 years ago while working at McDonald's I dropped a box full of hamburger meat. Wasted about 300 hamburgers worth. I felt so bad. But I did clean it up. You just kind of sound like a total piece of shit. Same thing. Pallet of eggs stacked extra tall. Well, I hit an invisible piece of wood and the entire front of the overstacked pallet fell forward at me. Absolutely terrifying. NTA for going off to lunch with a mess. The 5-hour reports count against management. So they have to be sure their people get off the clock. It's a big stupid thing that Wall lost a huge lawsuit for people going over 6 hours. Screw that company. No matter how hard I worked or how hard I tried, the managers treated me like absolute shit and didn't communicate with each other, so I'd get in trouble for doing what another manager told me to do. Pay sucked. Hours sucked, and I'm an anxious as hell person. Almost all my breaks were spent in the bathroom with anxiety shits and vomiting. I can only hope your work ethic, and everything else about you, has matured over time. Naturally, when the work was done, I congratulated the team for all of our hard work, making sure to take a bunch of credit for work I didn't do. This guy's got management written all over him. YTA. Different sub, but still. R. Malicious compliance.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.